Welcome back to the Soap Opera of the Stars for the first week of May, 29th of April to the 5th of May. Now, I'm not an astrologer or a human design expert. This is something that I love studying, and that when I've worked with my clients in my intuitive energy practice has helped them understand themselves better, understand what's happening in their lives, what are the influences that they can use to work on to deepen their self-work practice. The reason I'm doing this as stories is because I want to take a lighter approach to the way the planets and human design transits influence us. We need to look at it from the perspective of what is happening, what are the questions we're being asked, what is it we can do to deepen our self-work, to understand better how this is impacting us versus any sort of predictive doom or gloom sort of scenario. So that is another reason why, while I release very short, this is the theme for the week on Instagram, I do share the longer version only at the end of the week so that we can look back and journal or practice or think, whatever it is that you do to help yourself, to see how this has impacted us and what we can look back at and what we can take into our lives going forward. So let's begin. Pluto is wondering whether she's having a nervous breakdown or an anxiety attack, or whether she's just tired and needing some rest in familiar territory. Familiar territory, ugh, she thinks, given how the house of Capricorn always had something that smelt a little too clean about it. And that infuriating routine, everything just having to be just so, and how it was constantly on. And she feels a little guilty as her mind goes down this track. It was home for 15 years, and she can't say it was that horribly uncomfortable. Aquarius, after all, hasn't been a lark either, and so maybe she should be looking forward to go back to where she knows the devil, and she smiles. Well, she is just a little tired with all the energy of newness, and maybe she actually misses some of that comforting regime of Capricorn as opposed to the breathiness of Aquarius. It's a little deceiving, she thinks to herself, this sort of lightness in the air, because if she's learned anything in her short stay here, people are deep and can be quite fixated when it comes to a cause that is important to them. The insight surprises Pluto a little bit, given how turned on she is by going deep. But maybe all she wants is some comfort before she gets back to living in Aquarius. In any case, she sighs, there's still time and important meetings to be had while I'm packing to get back. A busy, busy few weeks when all I want is sleep, she mumbles. Neptune feels an urge to call Pluto and is surprised at her picking up on the second ring already. My antenna tells me you may be feeling a little blue, he says to her, jestingly. Pluto sticks her tongue out at him. I should have known there's some Neptunian fog at play here with what I'm feeling. No wonder you are never invited to any of the parties, she says. Neptune giggles. I am my own party, he says, but it looks like you've lost all your invitations right now. Haha, Pluto says, I have too many parties and no excuses to get out of them. I'm kind of feeling stuck, she admits. I don't know whether I'm glad or terrified to get back to Capricorn. You know, even if it's only for a bit. It's all right to feel that way, Neptune says, and Pluto feels a cool sort of pat on her back. Nothing's there, but she urges the temptation to turn around and scream at that soothing but very spooky gesture. You have to accept how you feel, says Neptune. I've gone a little hoarse trying to communicate, but this is not a time to avoid your emotions. It is a time to feel. Do not be afraid of those chemical reactions that actually make us who we are. Be kind, be kind, be kind, he says, fading his voice away for effect and suddenly popping off the screen. Pluto laughs at his theatrics inadvertently, but has to admit to herself she is feeling a little clearer. And so what if it is a panic attack or overwhelm? Neptune is right. She needs to give herself the space to feel her anxiety right now. As Pluto decides to take a nap, let's head on over to Venus, who is wide awake. She knows she should be looking forward to next week, but right now her mind was full of so many things she was wondering how her brain has the capacity to fit it all in. As she's moving out, she's really having to look at resources and how they're being used. Taurus is full of guests, with more expected, including Jupiter mid-month. Per Mars, his expenses went up exponentially, and he still hasn't been able to sort out all the bills. Venus loves for those who come to her house to feel provided for, but she too has a budget, and it's already a little stretched. She's kind of regretting all the expensive journals she ordered and makes a face at the pile of them lying at her feet, all used up. She just found out she needs to leave them in the house of Gemini, some sort of rule apparently. There's a library of journals, and while none get read without permission from the keeper of that journal, they're still all on display. At least mine will look pretty, thinks Venus. Continuing to think, she says, maybe I could speak with Jupiter. He is going to be all about change and transformation for these next few weeks, and Pluto is going to be in charged conversations with him. Maybe I can be that sweet hostess and slip in the fact that we need to be a little grounded for the next few months. He does have a soft spot for me, she convinces herself. Maybe this is a good idea, and wonders whether she should get some advice from Mars when she meets up with him. Mars, on the other hand, is having a bit of a strongly worded conversation with Jupiter. We need to reconcile the accounts, says Mars, for possibly the 50th time as per him, probably only the second time. But Jupiter is much too busy drawing up some sort of plan and muttering to himself about bloody confusion and thinks I'm a novice and things like that. Mars sort of braces himself. You really need to listen to me, he says, almost standing in between Jupiter and Jupiter's space-agey screen, forcing him to pay attention. I understand you're excited about moving, and there's pressure you're already feeling about going into Taurus, but we've got to end things properly here before you leave, so please help me reconcile these accounts. Jupiter sighs and takes off his specs and says, you don't get it. I'm going to be there after 12 years, and I don't for the life of me remember some of the things I did there last time. I'm sure I remember, and I'm sure it will all be back once I get there, but Pluto has started going on about how I need to be a better version of myself and level up, and it feels like a lot of pressure, you know. I know what you mean, says Mars, knowing he has a meeting with Pluto in his calendar in a few days. But right now, I really need you to focus on helping me out here. Okay, says Jupiter, it's not going to get solved today in any case, so I may as well distract my mind. It's just this move feels like there's lots of expectations from it. The sun and the moon just did that crazy ceremony, and now I'm kind of following in their footsteps, and everyone expects me to do even better. And right now, it just feels like everything is all entangled, and I need to find a way to bring some structure to it. Okay, maybe I'll be in a better mood once we've done our thing. Mars wonders whether he should share with Jupiter what he's been exploring in the last few days. The whole concept of project management and how starting with high-level goals, breaking them down into strategy and then tasks have really helped him. In fact, this whole conversation with Jupiter stems from realizing that he needs to get the Aries budgets in order after all the hectic activity there has been there. Would you mind looking at a format I've got for us to get this done? Says Mars to Jupiter, hoping he's not been over-enthusiastic trying to capture too much information. Now, God is in the details, but too many details can lead to a brain shutdown, at least for Mars. Mars chuckles to himself, who am I? What is this person who, from being the god of war and action, is now working on formats for expenses? While all of this is happening, let's go to Taurus, where the Sun and Uranus are catching up as if they haven't spoken in a year. It's been a year since they were physically together, true, But there have been cohorts in some of the mischief that's been playing with human lives for sure. The Sun is being shown the book Mercury and Uranus are writing, and of course, he has the best ideas yet, having thought about the subject for exactly 2 days. Uranus, having had his fun with Mercury and being in the mood to role model the concepts rather than lecture the Sun, was humoring him. The Sun did have a point about the connection between self-worth being key to being willing to get into a receiving mode in the first place, and he made a quick mental note to discuss that with Mercury. You cannot even recognize abundance knocking at your door, leave alone letting it in, if you aren't in the space of knowing you deserve it. You'll think of it as the enemy instead, as someone trying to manipulate you by giving you something only to take something else, the Sun continued. If you know your worth though, you'll know you have the boundaries to receive and to respond from that space of valuing yourself, in the case that it is a transaction-based gift sent to you. As the Sun went on, the Moon sat all the way across in Scorpio sulking. First of all, the Sun had given her no attention, which in itself was not a thing he usually did, but even more so when she was in her full radiance on this full moon. Also, she was sitting in Scorpio and her skin was crawling with the arcane magic of these halls. Now, what we need to note from all of this is that there is clearly a theme of endings and beginnings happening around us at the moment. What we need to ask ourselves is, what are we holding on to and why? Is it because feeling in control is a comfort zone? Are we scared of uncertainty and change? And is it worth staying where we are? It's like the story of the well, where a groove has formed, and so it's easier to pull the bucket up from that side. Changing the position for the rope is a strain on the rope as well as on the person drawing the water, but if we want to change, then we have to make that shift. So what is an easier path? Could we tie 2 ropes? One for the side when we're feeling adventurous and strong and energetic and therefore are willing to work on creating that new pathway? And can we keep the old rope for those days when we don't feel as energetic and therefore just need the comfort of pulling the water out of the well from where we know it's easier? Also, do we know what we really want? Is there something we want to grow? Does growing excite us? If we were to focus on the excitement of creating that new pathway, would it be more easier to choose that despite the uncertainty that it brings? If any of this resonates with you and you would like to journey deeper into these subjects, then connect with me through the comments below, through my Instagram profile. I'm at Pallavi108 on Instagram. You can write to me on asoneis.pn@gmail.com. And I would love to see if we can work together. Like, follow, subscribe to the channel, and do share this if you've enjoyed it. My goal is to empower as many people as I can to release the pain and feel some ease in these times that we're going through. I would like to share with you all the love and light that I can possibly channel from the universe to you. Thank you for listening.